Welcome to The Voice on this special day in our country. I am Bongeni Mutwa. The moment of truth has arrived. In a short while, President Cyril Ramaphosa will unveil the long-awaited economic reconstruction and recovery plan for the country. The plan has been in the works for months now, beginning at Netlek. From there, it went to Cabinet, and thereafter it was sent to the ruling ANC's Lekgotla for further scrutiny and input. It then went to a Cabinet Lekgotla for final adoption, and now the President is about to give a special address to a joint sitting of Parliament to announce details of the plan to members of Parliament and the nation at large. Now, ahead of the President's address, organised labour has weighed in with its expectations. And with millions of workers having lost their jobs in the last few months, mass employment tops their list of priorities. Fresh from its national strike against corruption and retrenchments last week, COSATU has big expectations of President Ramaphosa's economic recovery plan.
We look forward to the President's upcoming economic recovery plan. We cannot have an economic recovery plan that pushes the burden of this crisis towards workers and the poor. This is not time for indecisiveness. We cannot continue with the same macroeconomic framework that has seen the economy decline by 51% and bleeds 2.2 million jobs. We expect government to inject R1 trillion stimulus package.
That's not all. The Labour Federation wants to see a detailed plan to boost job creation.
Government needs to fix ESCOM to ensure reliable energy supply. Force the private sector to end the investment strike. We need a solid program that will promote reindustrialization and localization. A funding plan for a comprehensive infrastructure program.
But the country's second largest Labour Federation, SAFTU, doesn't have high expectations.
Not going to be an addressing of the poverty that afflicts almost 70% of the population now. The jobs that will come are not going, or the jobs that we're going to be promised are not going to be forthcoming from the framework that will be presented.
At the height of the national lockdown, to curb the spread of the coronavirus pandemic back in April, President Ramaphosa announced a 500 billion rand economic rescue package. He later said he had actually wanted R1 trillion but didn't get his wish. The question now is, will he get his wish this time around? Bongeni Mutwa, SABC News, Johannesburg. Well, for more, we are joined by Riedah Ajam, the General Secretary of the country's third largest Labour Federation, FEDUSA. Good afternoon, Riedah.
Bongeni, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the viewers.
Well, you have seen it all. You've been involved in the drafting of the plan from the beginning at Netlek. It's gone on over a period of a few months already now. You've had bilateral meetings with the President, thrashing out the plan. What's going through your mind at this point in time as we await the special address by the President?
Well, what is uppermost in our mind is that the President and government as a collective will be able to commit to the agreements that has been contained in the plan, that we will see fast implementation more specifically in order to get the economy stimulated, in order to get the economy moving forward, because as you rightfully allude in your pretext to this interview, that millions of jobs have been lost and sacrificed as a result of the lockdown. And it is now up to government to be able to show its hand in terms of how we collectively move the bus forward.
Now, the President has said that he's going to announce extraordinary measures that must be taken in order to bring about faster and sustained economic growth and job creation. In your view, what are those extraordinary measures? What are you looking forward to hearing from President in terms of those extraordinary measures?
Bongeni, I think it's a matter of not necessarily the extraordinary measures, but the ability of government to implement measures that have already been on the table, measures that have not necessarily been fast-tracked, and measures that have not necessarily seen the necessary development that we are looking towards. And these are issues such as, the challenges that have continuously beset the South African economy, such as those infrastructural challenges. Here we talk about the consistent security and supply of electricity. And when we speak about infrastructure in particular, we are speaking about the security measures in terms of being able to take workers in particular to their places of work. And this is reliable on the transport infrastructure that we are looking towards, in particular metro rail, in particular PRASA, the ports, as our ability to be able to be more competitive in this economy of ours. So government most certainly needs to display that, but I don't believe that there are specific extraordinary measures that we are looking towards, but our ability to be able to look back on those that we can drive, our ability to be able to implement, most importantly, because we cannot continue uphold the mandate and the theory that says that South Africa is very good at developing policy, but falls blatantly short in terms of the ability to implement those very decisions and policies that have been so expertly crafted.
Now, in terms of the cost of the plan, there is this 1 trillion rand that keeps getting mentioned. The president was first to mention it, of course, earlier on in the COVID crisis. COSATU has come out now and also called for a 1 trillion rand stimulus package. Do you have a number yourself as FEDUSA that you would like to hear?
Well, that number is fairly accurate that we are speaking towards when we take into account what the cost is in terms of the current budget, where there are shortcomings, how government is able to move forward. But more importantly so, when we take a look at the debate in terms of its complexity, in terms of the overallness of this discussion, we are taking a look at the ability of government to be able to collect taxes, the ability of government to clamp down on the specific structural actions such as our resources within the Special Investigations Unit, within SARS. Here we talk about customs fraud, the recovery of key elements here that will contribute to the expansion of the tax base, and all these factors would be able to ensure that South Africa can start recovering and get into the mode of becoming a capable and a developmental state. Until such time, we are going to be falling short. So the figure is accurate, as more or less accurate, and we need to start moving forward.
Well, there is, of course, this continuing standoff between government and the public sector unions. You yourselves, you do have public sector unions in terms of the wage increase for the public servants. Some people would like to hear something being mentioned by the president with regards to that. Do you think that should be part of the president's address this afternoon?
Bongeni, this is a very emotional debate, and it's a very emotional discussion that the public at large needs to be able to contextualize and understand. When we take a look at what has been demonstrated and coming out of this pandemic is in actual fact the key and the critical necessity of the public service, how they have been able to respond to this pandemic, how they have been at the forefront of saving lives and have been part of the health recovery process that ensured that South Africa can get to the lockdown levels that we are at right now. And I think it's an absolute disservice. It is totally disheartening that government continues to look the other way when it comes to deserving public servants. We cannot ignore the underlying elephant in the room here, and that is corruption and that is wasteful expenditure. If government could have curbed this cancer of corruption that we are dealing with continuously, the issue with regards to the increases, the issue with regards to continuously moving South Africa forward as a capable and as a competent state that is competitive in every aspect, expect.
Well, Riedah, I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you there. We've run out of time. We have to leave it there. At the moment, I hand you over to my colleague, Asanda Mbeje, in Parliament, who continues with our build-up to the address by the President.
Well, thank you, Mangeni, and welcome back to Parliament as we get ready for ready for the President's address now at 2 o'clock. I'm joined by the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Ms. Phemi Matjadina. Chief Whip, a lot of concerns around how to get the economy going. One of our key sectors is tourism. It's its peak season right now in summer. How does the Majority Party see tourism participating in a recovery program during this festive season?
Thank you, Asanda. Tourism is one of the key priority areas that we are looking at. But with the wave that might be coming soon, we cannot risk the lives of South Africans, neither the lives of those that are in the tourism sector. And therefore, we have to clash balance how tourism contributes to economic recovery, not compromising the health standards as well as the spread of this virus. However, we think that more efforts must be made to ensure that they operate in an environment that is not going to spread this virus. We cannot prioritize more money at the expense of the lives of our people.
Chief Whip, we're going to have to let you go pretty soon before the President arrives. There are concerns about small businesses struggling through the lockdown. How does the ANC view the President's ideas of what they should be in helping small businesses recover?
The recovery of small businesses should be through a particular grant, but there must be clear targets that are set for each and every small business, because they are main contributors in township as well as in rural villages, and therefore more investment must be done through those small businesses. They've suffered a lot during this lockdown.
Thank you very much, Chief Whip, for joining us. That's the Chief Whip of the Majority Party talking about some of the concerns that need to be addressed by the President. We are now also joined by the leader of the ACDP, Reverend Kenneth Mesha. Reverend, what are the ACDP's ideas around what we should be focusing on in economic recovery?
One of the very important things that should be done is infrastructure development, that we know that government has spoken about for many times, but it has not happened. So we want to say, as the ACDP, do what you know should be done. Do what is in your documents, because they also talk about infrastructure development, but they don't do it. And when you do it, because you're going to need money, don't go and borrow more, because we have a deep hole of debt that we do not want to grow. Let that debt stay where it is, so that government will focus on recovering the billions of rands that have been lost. Some people say trillions that have been lost through corruption and looting. So get that money back.
When we're talking about recovering lost monies, the Hawks have been busy arresting people. Do you have any confidence in that?
Well, we do. We're happy that the Hawks have started, but the progress is very slow. They need to focus on ensuring that they have more people. They must increase resources so that more of them can go and recover the money we need to invest in the economy. Thank you very much, Reverend, for joining us. That's the leader of the ACDP. Before we go, I'm going to talk to the Chief Whip of the United Democratic Movement, Mr. Kwangwa, the UDM is big on fighting corruption. Yeah. The Hawks have been busy. Do you think it will help in any way with South Africa's economic recovery?
Well, it's a good start, but as long as we want to confine the fight against corruption to COVID-19 related expenditure, we are not going to win the fight against corruption. You will recall that during the Jacob Zuma years, we lost about 500 billion rands to corruption, and no one has been held to account for that particular issue. So what we are saying as the UDM is that we need to go back and start and ensure that all the monies that were lost to corruption, all the people who are responsible for it, are held to account and brought to book, and not just confined to COVID-19. The other specific issue, which I think you asked an important question earlier about small businesses, the interventions, small businesses are not a homogeneous group of people. As an approach, a strategy that would work needs to be sector specific. It needs to be targeted to specific sectors so that you can be able to revive and provide the necessary support to them.
Mr. Kwangwa, before I let you go, as we see the President's motorcade arriving, is there another sector besides small businesses that you think government should be focusing on in its recovery plan right now?
No, it's the manufacturing sector in particular. We need to start producing what we consume. Instead of importing what we need to consume as a country, we need to start providing goods for the rest of the African continent instead of relying on other people to produce items and products for us.
Mr. Kongwa, thank you very much for joining us.
Much
That's
obliged.
the Chief Whip of the United Democratic Movement. And as we see, the President's motorcade has arrived as we get ready for 2 o'clock when the President addresses a joint sitting of Parliament today on his plans for the country's economic recovery. Let's go back to Arabile now in the studio.
Asanda Mbeje, thank you so much for that. Then, of course, out in Cape Town, a windy Cape Town that is that the winds of change, though? That is the big question. Will we be able to get